Today we're talking about how to curl your mustache using, well, hair curlers. Now for the last 2 to 3 months here, I've been using hair curlers in my mustache to pre-curl my mustache before I put wax in it. And I found that it really helps out, especially with some of those waxes that might be on the little bit lighter side of a hold. And I also found that when using stronger waxes, that it helped me get a little bit more of a symmetrical curl that I tend to not get when I'm not using the hair curlers. Now these aren't like your normal curlers that you might be used to seeing, and I'm sure that there might be some other types that work as well. However, I found that these are probably definitely the best ones, and they're the ones that the other guys that I've seen curling their mustache with these have been using. So essentially what it is it's like the Velcro backing. It's basically that, however, it is much more spread apart and in nice rows. And that's how it's being held in place. Underneath that, you have essentially a plastic frame. Now I can tell you that I definitely have not been using this size of a curler in my mustache because, well, my stash just isn't quite that epic. However, the set that I got has several different sizes inside of them. And so you do have an option if you go with a set. Now I usually prefer a tighter curl, so I have been using the littlest one in this bunch. However, I am contemplating using maybe the second smallest here just to see how my mustache acts with it. Now I found that it is best if your mustache is a little bit damp when you are applying the curlers. Now there's essentially 2 ways to use these curlers. There's the way with the full stick, and then there is the way with the halves, which I will explain to you here shortly. Now to apply these to your hair, you're gonna want to have a damp mustache. Now I did shower and it was still a little bit damp, but I did add a little bit extra water here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run a brush through it here a couple of times to get those hairs nice and straight. Then I'm going to go ahead and take the curler, kind of put it about center. I'm pushing down on it so that those hairs really get into the loops. And I pull it out towards the end. Once the end is in, I can go ahead and start curling it up, making sure that all the hairs that need to be get into those loops. Now, as you can see here, the curler is vertical, which means that when we take it out, the curl is going to be going forward, which means to really get it to be even, you're going to end up having to flip it backwards and recurling it the other way to get it to want to be up like it should be. And since I didn't really want to have to do that with this every time, I went ahead and sacrificed one of my curlers and simply cut it in half. That allows me to simply take it, brush it through, take the curler. Now notice I'm putting it on top of the hair instead of the side of the hair or the front of the hair. Go out. Make sure that those ends are nice and tucked in. Make sure that the back hairs are. Now that both these curlers are in, I'll leave them about for the next 10 to 15 minutes. Alright, now that 15 minutes are done, we can go ahead and take this one out. This one's been more about 20. And as you guys can see, it is curled. So normally I wouldn't have to take this out, but I wanted to show you guys that obviously it is curling toward the front there, and that is just no go. So what we're going to fix that is we are going to go ahead and reapply the curler. And we are simply going to flip it over and tuck that in there real nicely. And this one here, however, we can go ahead and pull that out, and as you see, comb it out a bit, and it's ready for wax. So I prefer this way with the little ones. Obviously, some guys with thicker mustaches or longer mustaches, one of these little ones here may not be quite enough. And now that it is in its proper place, I'm going to go ahead and leave it for about the next 10 minutes. Alright, so I've let this one now sit in my mustache for about 10 minutes. And as you can see, it automatically starts wanting to pop up to where it should be. Now, the only differences that I can really tell in using the large ones versus the smaller version is that this one does tend to want to stay a little bit higher right away, but honestly, the wax usually takes that and puts this one exactly right where I want it to be anyway. So now I'm going to go ahead and apply some wax and show you guys the results. And there we go. As you can see, this side is not much lower than the other one now. And I did also notice that this one does tend to need to be kind of fixed a little bit more so than this side does to make sure that it continues in the proper direction. Now, a couple things that I also tried with the hair curlers was applying them when the hair was completely dry. And it did work, but I did need to leave the curlers in for a bit longer, closer to about 45 minutes. So it definitely isn't quite as quick with dry hair, but it did work. I also tried applying a light hold mustache wax to the hair before applying the curler. And the only thing that I can say there is that if you're going to do that, make sure that it is a very little bit of mustache wax, as you really don't want these getting gunked up with wax. And it did work. However, I have to say that I saw about the same results from applying the wax and not applying the wax right out of the shower or with a damp mustache. Now, if you want to go my way and split one of these in half, I say the easiest way to do so is to find one of the thinner plastic areas that's right about center. Go ahead and kind of stab a knife through that a little bit and then take a scissor and cut it out. Now you're going to be left with some little prickly pieces. You can go ahead and trim those off with the scissor or knife or whatever you decide to use as well. I suppose if you do have a hot knife, you could also very easily melt right through it and cut it in half, and that'd probably be the best way to make sure you don't have any little pricklies. But I went ahead and just cut it, and you're gonna want to use a lighter on the ends really quickly just to kind of melt it to make it so that it's not prickly. Now, I found that the more of these that you buy, the cheaper they are. So you're not going to be able to buy just a pack of 2 of the little ones or whatever. I do recommend getting the one with the multiple sizes, because I could very easily see myself going up to the darker purple with this just for a really large curl. And some days you may want a larger curl than something a bit tighter. So having the option to do so at whim is definitely a positive. Now, I got this whole bag for, I think it was like $10 to $15. And as you see, it came with 6 of these multiple sizes. So you'll definitely get quite a bit in there for that price. So as you see, to get a nice even curl in your mustache, cheap hair curlers are definitely a good addition to your grooming routine. If you'd like to pick yourself up some of these, I have of course linked them down in the description. While you're down there picking yourself out some curlers, why not leave a comment of if you've used curlers in your mustache before, if you're thinking about using curlers in your mustache, if you have any tips and tricks for us, whether it is curler related or not, as long as it's got to do with the mustache, I want to hear it, and so does everybody else. If you've got any questions, of course, go ahead and leave them down there below, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. For more mustache tips, tricks, and information, make sure to check out this playlist up here. Down below, that's going to be a video that you may enjoy as well. Until next time, as always, you have a good one.